It seems like everybody and their mother is talking about the big, huge JRPG releases this year. You know, those like shiny multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns, the trailers that show off all these flashy spells and the high polygon counts, and the titles that end up being at the very top of those best of lists before the year's even half over. And yeah, I get it. I mean, those games are good, but you know, a lot of the interesting stuff, the stuff that's actually trying something new, that's mostly coming from indie developers. So today, that's what I want to talk about. I want to cut through all that noise and just talk about 5 indie JRPGs that are quietly like reshaping what RPGs look like. And I definitely do think so with the sub as you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your hype. It helps me out a ton. Now, let's go ahead and dive right on in and see what the best of these indies have to offer. Now, first up on the docket is Kingdoms of the Dump. And with a title like that, you know that you're in for a brand new experience. You're walking into a world made up entirely of garbage, and you play as Dustin Binsley, a scatterbrained knight out to rescue the king. And in doing so, he has to traverse 5.5 kingdoms of the dump, which are all like really unique in their own ways. Do y'all remember how in Super Mario RPG, each kind of like little world felt distinct from one another? Like you were like really going into a brand new land. Well, it's the same sort of thing here, in all the right ways. But don't just think that it's all about garbage, because underneath all that trash is a surprisingly tactical RPG. The battles are turn-based, grid-focused, and they require actual positioning. You can see enemies before you fight them, so you get to plan, flank, and bait. No random encounter roulette here. And remember how the battles played out in like Radiant Historia? Where you had grids, and the enemies had their own grids, and you can kind of like push and pull the enemies around in like traps and stuff like that? Well, it's the same thing here, and I loved it there, and I definitely love it here. All the 6 playable characters have different field abilities. They can climb, use their gun, turn into a bubble, or like rust things. And they aren't just gimmicks, because they let you solve exploration puzzles in really clever ways, making every dungeon feel interactive and alive. And honestly, the moment that you realize that the world is like absurdly charming, but it still punishes poor strategy, that there is whenever Kingdom of the Dump stops feeling like a joke and it starts feeling like pure, old-school JRPG genius. This one here is for anybody who wants a throwback that actually respects your brain while still delivering snappy, weird humor. And honestly, it just kind of like released at a weird time and in a year filled to the brim with bangers. So I think that that's why it went kind of like under the radar. So I just wanted to make sure that people are still talking about good ones like these. Robot Rhapsody looks sweet, and it is today's video sponsor. This is a turn-based SNES, PlayStation 1, 90s pixel art style inspired RPG. And if it does look familiar, it's because it's from the same developers as beloved Rapture, which actually won my Indie Game of the Year award back in 2024. But rather than like telling like a medieval coming-of-age story like that game did, Robot Rhapsody instead focuses on kind of like a science fiction Final Fantasy VII meets Xenogears kind of vibe, with themes like AI taking over the world, cults, and environmental degradation. This definitely looks to be like a step up from their first outing too. Not only that, you can even recruit robots to join your party, kind of like Pokemon, and instead of creating like a traditional RPG world map, they opted for like a world design inspired by Zelda: Link to the Past, which is a pretty cool take if you ask me. There's all sorts of different puzzles that you have to solve in order to progress. All of this sounds pretty amazing to me. So if you want to check it out for yourself, there is a Kickstarter in the links below. So do be sure to give it a look and throw your support their way, because real human developers, and this is 100% human developed, need you on their side. And now from a lost SNES gem, let's move on over to a lost Game Boy gem with The Secret of Aronis. The second that I saw this one, I knew that I had to check it out, and man oh man, am I glad that I did. It is obviously inspired by Game Boy era Saga games, which you might know as the Final Fantasy Legend games, and it keeps all the good bits, but it drops all the bad bits. So you're not going to be like finding brutal, unfair grinding, or meat that changes like a fire-breathing dragon into a church mouse, or mutants who lose all their best spells at the drop of a hat. You still build up your party from 4 distinct races, the humans, the espers, the robots, and the monsters, but each level up in completely different ways. humans gain stat boosts via item use, just like in Final Fantasy Legend 1. Espers gain their stat boosts and learning magic spells just by fighting. Robots can be customized through their equipment, and monsters change based upon the meat that they eat. But it's not really random here, because the game will ask you if you'd like to drop a spell in order to learn a new spell, and it will also tell you what a monster will change into if you do choose to eat the meat. Now, I've got to say that there weren't a whole lot of RPGs on the original Game Boy, especially growing up, and in the early years. It was pretty much just like Sword of Hope, Final Fantasy Adventure, and then the 3 Final Fantasy Legend games. And because of that, I've probably played those 3 games more than even classic RPGs like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. Because again, there was literally nothing else to play on vacations and road trips. So playing this really made me feel like I was diving on back into 7th grade, when I was 12 or so years old and we drove on down to Disney World for spring break. Or, those summer road trips up to New York to visit my family for a month straight. It was just nostalgia overload. And it takes the best from all 3 of the games. The multiple worlds, the tower, the alternate dimensions, and most importantly, it just takes it all and it elevates it into something special. And the story isn't just climb up the tower and fight God, or find 77 magi. Instead, it's more subtle, but it's layered. And hey y'all, if you are enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like and hype buttons and sub too, because it all helps me out a ton. And now, third on our list, Secrets of Grindia. I truly feel like the title is the only thing that's holding this thing back because, looking at it, you might think that it's just a big old grind fest, but it's not. It's kind of like if Mana had a class system and skill trees. Don't sleep on this one. It's a co-op action RPG with a mind-boggling amount of build variety. There are 9 different skill categories, 31 spells, and a flexible leveling system that makes your characters feel actually genuinely unique. But it isn't just about the numbers, because the combat is tight, responsive, and fun in a way that actually, rewards your skill. And I spent an entire session experimenting with spell combos and weapon types, and it was just so fun and cool to really see how much your playstyle would actually change based upon which skills you learned in the skill tree. It was a totally different game, going from a sword user over to an archer, and then over into a magician. And then there's the world. It's enormous, and there's tons of people to talk to, along with a bunch of side quests that actually matter. And there's little slice of life things too that you can do if you want to, like crafting or fishing or doing mini games. There's even pets, and an arcade-style roguelike mode if you want to use that. And then there's co-op, not that I have any friends or anything, but you can jump in with your friends, which is, a lot of fun, and not a lot of things that a lot of indie games do. But what really makes it special is how it balances accessibility with depth. You can casually explore, gather up loot, and level on up, but if you want to optimize everything and min-max your skills and all that kind of stuff, the game welcomes that too. It's cute, and the title sucks, but don't let that fool you, because underneath it all is a great, cute, wonderful RPG. And now from an action RPG, we're going over to a turn-based classic with Beloved Rapture. This one here hits differently. If you want story, emotion, and stakes, this here is your pick. It is a traditional JRPG in a classic SNES mold, but the story carries weight beyond what most indie games actually dare to attempt. You're going to be in here navigating political intrigue, mystical factions, the death of your family, the loss of your love of your life, and a massive betrayal too. And these character bonds actually matter. They're not just shallow relationships. Every conversation can impact the story, and the characters feel alive, flawed, but also emotionally compelling. I mean, you're not reshaping the world with dialogue trees here or anything, but the game is really good at making small moments feel important. You're actually learning how this world is and how its people function, instead of just ticking off quest markers. Not only that, the developers recently released a free major update called Lost Songs of Archon, adding new regions, enemies, puzzles, bosses, and cutscenes. That there is the kind of support that shows the developers actually care about the world and players, unlike some multi-billion-dollar companies that release their DLC for $30. But anyway, Beloved Rapture is one of those rare indie RPGs that can make you care about the story as much as about the systems. And the battle design is a classic turn-based, but with like few modern tweaks, like speed control, combo abilities, and party synergy that rewards thought and party planning. It's a perfect mix of nostalgia, ambition, and mechanical polish. So if you're looking for a classic RPG but with like an emotional punch, this here is essential. And finally, we have the most recent one on the list, Dungeon Antiquette 2. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a huge Final Fantasy V fan, and the job system's just brilliant, so any RPG with jobs just instantly grabs me. And the second that I saw this game with its job system, I knew that I had to try it out. And you can see the inspiration immediately from its classic SNES-style graphics, turn-based combat, and a job system that, feels just like Final Fantasy V, but just a little bit smaller. You start with 5 different jobs: the fighter, the thief, the monk, the mage, and the priest, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. But then there are 5 more jobs that you can change into as you progress through the game and defeat the various trials. There's also a hub town for shopping, preparing, and selecting dungeons, and weapons and armor are like surprisingly tactical. You have poison rods, paralysis-inflicting daggers, armors that protect against status effects, front and back row positioning that works like old-school Final Fantasy II, so your mages and your archers will stay safe while the fighters take the hits. All that stuff is there, along with a job system that is fantastic. And each job has its own base skills, plus additional abilities that you unlock as you earn job points. And you can equip up to 3 different sub-skills, and mastering a job carries bonuses over to other jobs. That means that your fighter's strength or month's vitality is not wasted if you switch over to another class, which is exactly what I love. Then there's the dungeons. They're carefully designed, they're not random here, along with visible enemies, preemptive attacks, traps, and limited use healing fountains that force strategic planning. The chests can be trapped, the floors can be cleared for safe progress, and I've just gotta say, this here is pure Final Fantasy V love wrapped up in an indie package with an indie price tag that'll keep you hooked for hours. So there you have it. 5 indie RPG experiences that are really just pushing the boundaries of what they can offer. From the usurped charm and tactical puzzles of the Kingdom of the Dump, to the saga-inspired depth of Secret of Aronis, to the mana mastery of Secrets of Grindia, to the emotional resonance of Beloved Rapture and the dungeon crawling of Dungeon Antiquette 2, these games here prove that indie developers aren't playing catch-up. They are instead leading the way, they are leading the charge. So if you're tired of the same big-budget hype cycles and you want games with real personality, real depth, and real heart, these here are the ones that you need to go to. And now, if you like this, please be sure to level on up and join my party by subscribing, and I'll keep on digging into the best RPGs, the old and the new, that nobody else is talking about. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.